Hello, College Prep English 10. Here is your Lord of the Flies introduction and background PowerPoint that I'm going to walk you through to give you a good foundation of what we will be getting into. First and foremost, I would just like to draw your attention to this picture, which on some editions of the novel, this is the cover of the book. But right off the bat, we feel a negative connotation with the evil eyes and the reds and the, looks like blood, the red eyes. And so right off the bat, we see the characters looking very savage and very almost demonic. So a little bit of background, Lord of the Flies. It tells the story of how in the midst of a raging war, World War II, a plane evacuating a group of schoolboys from Britain is shot down over a deserted tropical island in the Pacific Ocean. So the way it goes is these boys were evacuated from their school because there was threat of bombings. And so they were evacuated and their parents put them on a plane to get them away from this endangered area. And of course, everybody dies on the plane except for the boys. So they are left to fend for themselves on this island. The pilots are dead, the adults are dead, and so they are made to fend for themselves. So with no adults, they're left to fend for and govern themselves. The boys range in age from 6 to 12, and Ralph, one of the older boys, becomes chief with the assistance of a conch shell, which when he blows into it, it establishes order on the island. So when the boys hear him blowing into the shell, the boys know that they are to come and assemble. But this shell, which seems so irrelevant, a seashell, it is going to play a huge role in terms of power and the struggle of power in the novel. So there's conch shell, if you've never seen one. And here is sort of a map of the island just to give you a view. So up in the top right corner, you see the plane on fire getting ready to crash. Up here, you will see they're smart. They build the signal fire on top of the mountain, the highest point of the island. So, if someone's flying overhead, they can be seen. This is called the backbone of the island. Here we see Castle Rock. They describe this part of the island where the pink rock is. That's Castle Rock. And here we have the lagoon and then the reef. So those are all different things that you will see the boys refer to. The title translation, which is pretty creepy. So there's a word called Beelzebub, and this is a Hebrew word for Lucifer, or the devil. However, the literal translation of Beelzebub into English is Lord of the Flies. So if that is not telling, I don't know what it is. So we can say as much as we want that we would never do this or we would never do that. We would never harm someone. We would never commit a crime. We would never, kill somebody for food. But the whole premise of this book is never say never. The author wants us to know that unless you are put in a life and death situation, you have no idea how you are going to react. So the entire time you're reading this, we are tracing the behavior of these little kids to see if they stick to that mentality of never say never. So here's our author. His name is William Golding. He was born in Britain, died in 1993. A couple things about him, because again, we want author credibility. We want an author who knows what he's talking about. Even though this is fiction, it's based around World War II, kind of like Charming Billy was fiction, but it was based around Vietnam. So as a child, our author, William Golding, witnessed World War I. So this gives him credibility in the novel. Remember, the setting of the novel is World War II, so war was something that the author knew about. So we can trust his historical context within the reading. So the times that they're talking about war and just different things that happen with war, like the bombings and evacuations, even though the book is fiction, those things really happen. So just some famous World War II photos. So through Lord of the Flies, Golding is making two different statements. One, we cannot escape our savage, violent tendencies. And two, without social order, we enter into a state of chaos. So again, the first one, we cannot escape our savage, violent tendencies. This goes back to never say never. Unless we are put into a certain situation, we have no idea how violent we can become, how savage we can become, or if we can even escape that state of mind. And secondly, without social order, we enter a state of chaos. Think about if we didn't have rules on the road, if we didn't have rules in school, if we didn't have rules in a store, if we didn't have rules anywhere. Think about the chaos that would erupt. So some different symbols that are going to come up. Again, they are all just, on the surface, completely meaningless, but they become huge. So Piggy's glasses. Yes, there is a character named Piggy in the novel, and he is picked on and he is bullied. He's a dumb kid. However, he's the only character with glasses, and literally, he can see the most clearly and figuratively too. So it's kind of ironic that the author would give our smartest, clearest thinking character the glasses. And then you'll trace the glasses. So you'll notice that as Piggy's glasses start to break, because remember, they're on this island for a while, so a lens will break or something will break. You'll notice that as his glasses start to break, notice what happens to his clear thinking. Notice what happens to him, like, figuring things out. Is he getting better or worse every time his glasses break? The conch shell we talked about, how it's going to become a symbol of power and the struggle for power. And then a mention of a snake or a snake thing that swings from the trees in the forest. And if you think about, not to get all religious, but the snake in the Bible in the Garden of Eden was something that had a very negative connotation. Important images. The beastie. It is unclear what the beastie is. We hear the little kids talking about the beastie in the forest. You can imagine how scary that would be for a little kid. And so the whole book, they are trying to chase this beastie to find out what it is. Is it really a monster? Is it a snake? Is it their own mind just going insane? What is it? The second image is the Lord of the Flies. Literally, what the Lord of the Flies is this. It is a pig's head on a stick. Makes no sense right now, but it will become very clear. Terms to remember. You'll hear me use the term microcosm and macrocosm. So looking at microcosm, look at the prefix micro, think microscope. Microcosm is the small things that make up the large thing. Macro, prefix means big, so macrocosm is the large or the whole thing. So, an example, a macrocosm would be the earth. The micro or the small things would be the people that make up this earth. So how that relates to our novel is this. The macro or the big thing is the island, and the micro or the small things are the stranded boys. So modern day allusions, you heard me talk about the snake and how it's a biblical reference. We're going to see some allusions. Remember, it is not an illusion when we think we see something that's not there. Remember, allusion, you looked at this on your literary term sheet last week, is an indirect reference to a well-known person, event, place, story, storybook, etc. So in terms of literature, when authors use allusions, they use 4 common types. Shakespearean allusions, allusions from mythology, allusions from fairy tales, and biblical allusions. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to see 2. We will see both biblical and fairy tale allusions in this novel. Little comedy for you. You can watch this right now. It's just something funny if you watch 2.5 Men. When you are done watching this, please complete today, Thursday's discussion question, which is based on this screen cap.